Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of My Stoic Circus. And today we're going to talk about have you set your standards and to use them? That's right. You'll all hear live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and I believe also Clubhouse. So we're going to get started in just a moment here. All right, everybody. Good morning. It is, what is it, October 9th, 2023. Great weekend for me. It was my 51st birthday on, was it Saturday? All right. So 51 years definitely celebrated. It was very mellow, very just let's just say easy going. And that's kind of what I wanted. Um I have to say kind of because I did want a little more, the ego did, but that's not to say that I didn't have a good time because I did. I got to go to a car show. I went to on the Miracle Mile here in Stockton on Saturday. Then I also got to go to Tracy at the Tracy, was it Blues, Brews and Barbecue Fest. Great time to be a part of local stuff, and I got to see my wonderful partner and my 5-year-old, and it just kind of flowed. It worked out for me, and I'm glad it did work out the way that it did. So, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about standards. I have talked about standards before, but something was, that really stuck out in the Daily Stoic, and I've literally read this book, and I've reviewed it for 2 years at least, minimum, maybe three. But I will say this. Today, I think it was a wonderful reminder is like, what do we think of standards and why are they so important to us? Many of us, we use standards to measure or to create boundaries for ourselves. We like to do things in such a way where we can see, hey, it does this way. I don't go above, I don't go below. I just stick to this exact thing. And that could be a standard, right? Or it could be a process, like say, like repairing your car or fixing your bar, whatever. You're fixing something, but it has standards in which it must be done. And sometimes it takes the right tools, sometimes it takes the right mentality, the right strength, whatever it may have, but they're there for a reason. And I like what Epictetus had talked about in his discourses. And this is basically what he said about standards. He says, what's the standard have been set? Things are tested and weighed. And the work of philosophy is just this, to examine and uphold standards. But the work of a truly good person is using those standards when they know them. Ooh, that is definitely a big thing. And what I thought about earlier this morning, when I was wanting to make this show, because I do need to make a standard of when I come on, when I live stream. Sometimes people come in, some people don't. But nevertheless, I will say that when I have my standards in recording and live streaming, that means that my public or the people that follow me like to listen to me or whatever I say. They know at this time I'm going to do that. I'm going to perform when I need to, where I need to. And I think that's very important, is because when people know, I can't tell you enough that people want to know, like when they really like something like a podcast, like when, for example, some of the people I like to follow, like Joe Rogan, when he goes live, I make sure that I tune in to the calendar time that he has. And that was one of the areas that I kind of lacked in for my podcasting and streaming time. And when I looked at what was taking place, I was actually looking at, you know, the more people that support you, the more they see you consistently. And that's just preached all throughout the podcasting and YouTube and streaming world, right? But let's go a little bit more into this. Ryan Holiday, in his book, The Daily Stoic, and I'm quoting on his page 302, his excerpts were kind of a little bit more poignant. And I'm going to give an opinion about this. He says, we go through the days of responding and reacting, key. But it's rare to really pause and ask, is this thing I'm about to do consistent with what I believe? Whoa. Or better, is it the kind of thing the person I would like to be should do? That's kind of like an emotional check right there, if you ask me. And the work of a living is to set standards and then not compromise them. When you're brushing your teeth, choosing your friends, losing your temper, falling in love, instructing your child, or walking your dog, all of these are opportunities. Not I wanted to do good, that's an excuse, but I will do good in the particular instance right now and set standards, hold fast to it. That's all there is. Now, the Stoic question of the day that he writes about, he writes basically saying, have I set standards and am I using them? I think that's a very important question. And he raised a lot of key points in a world right now, like currently today, all I've heard was the war that's raging in Israel and Palestine against Hamas. Hamas is a not just a religious group, but it's a political group. And when you look at these things, at what's going on, and how do standards apply, it's like if you really care about your attention, right? Let's just use that. You really care about your attention. Are you going to let little things distract you, or are you going to let things pull you in and kind of debacle your day, so to speak? And when I think about standards, I like the first questions that he really asked. He asked, um, you know, are you are you about to, let's see, what is it? Is this thing that I'm about to do consistent with what I believe? Now, what if I don't necessarily believe in war, right? That's a very strong possibility. I don't believe in war. I don't believe in conducting myself in paying attention to global matters all the time when my business is failing, or maybe my family needs attention. I'm sorry, but I've got to be compassionate. So I'm number one. Number one. I'm number one. My family's number two. If I fail, my family fails. So if I am consistent, then comes my God and my community. Okay. These are very, very important things. Not my country. Now that's very tricky, right? Because I mean, if I commit to too broad, then I don't really have a measure that I can keep hold my attention and where my conversations go to. So when we look at standards, especially when it comes to your attention, look at what actually takes place with your attention. He asked it very specifically. Is this thing I'm about to do consistent with what I believe in? Now, what do you believe in? That's the second part of the question, and is this the kind of thing the person I would like to be should do? So if I want to be more reserved, I want to be fulfilled, I want to be happy. If I am distracted with all kinds of things going around me that have nothing to do with me, right? Or I don't have influence, am I really going to give attention? Say, like a friend comes to you and says that their boyfriend was really mean to them, right? Or that they're a piece of, whatever, malarkey. And it was a temporary spat, but you take their side, and guess what? There's the indifference. This is just like a personal thing. So whenever someone tells me their personal problems per se, and they want me to side or they want to vent to me, naturally my emotions are, of course, I want to care for my friend, but my standards say hold back, because what if they make up? This does happen. What if they make up and then I'm the one with sore feelings and they've gotten over it? This happens all the time. So my standards are, you know what? Resist, hold back, you know, let's let it breathe a little bit, give them some time, but I will be very strict. I don't allow too much dumping on me or too much ally sharing. It's like, look, I appreciate what you're saying. I may not be the most competent person for your relationship, or I might have some biases. So, really think about this. And that's kind of mean in a way, but at the same time, it kind of saves me from getting over invested. And you know what? Lately, I've had a few of those friends. They told me, hey, Jason, I've had such an issue and I want to talk. And I'd listen, right? And I'd say, I can listen to you, but I cannot offer advice at this time, which is strange because I'm the kind of guy that likes to add his 2 cents, right? But because I've been putting this standard in place where I actually believe that to secure my energy, to secure my mental space and what I'm going to do, I narrow my focus, I give them a space. It's unfortunate you're going through that. I'm sure you're going to work it out well. Let's check back in a week and see how you do. Because then that means that I'm not allowing them to retrain in conversation. Because when we have conversations with our fellow friends and acquaintances, you don't want to rehash and retrain their traumas. You want to progressively move, but be understanding how we do that. And that is, holding your space, keeping that standard that, what, though my friend or my family may be going through something unfortunate, me being able to have temperance, have patience with them and myself protects what I feel, what I think. Because are they ever thinking, this happens a lot. Do they ever think that what you're going through, you may not be the kind of person that mentions what you're going through all the time, maybe once in a while, but maybe you don't go through, and that you're struggling because what the Stoics would resort to is your self-reliance, your self-resilience. And what is that? Self-reliance means that you seek within yourself the answers that are within, right? And if that doesn't work, then look at the avenues of the problem, the issue, or the obstacle. Is it something that belongs to you, or is it something that you need to say, I'm sorry, got to not take that on right now? And if it's a deeper issue, there are trained professionals. There are people who will be unbiased to you, who will not have feelings and hear you out. And I've had a great series of therapists who have helped me resolve my issues, right? But let's take it a little bit about the workplace. The workplace can be an excessive toxic pool, or it can be an abundance, field of harvest. It can go either way, but it really depends. So when you go to work, right? One thing that I do believe in, that has been really preached in this culture, is do exactly what you've signed up to do. Do exactly what's upon ask. Now, there's this culture that kind of comes up that where they want to ask you to do a little extra. If you are going extra all the time, it becomes a standard. That means your employers, your clients, whoever, they're expecting the same kind of goal. But see, the goal doesn't always strike it rich in the same place every single time. You have to be able to willing to say no, which I've got to refer back to James Clear when he was talking to Gary Vee, and in his book Atomic Habits. He basically says that no is a decision. So that's a standard right there. When you say no. Now, when you say yes, it is an obligation. And I really had to think about what that actually meant, um, when it comes to your agreements, especially in the workplace and especially in business. It's okay to say no. It's great to say no. If I reserve no as my primary, when I say yes is precious, that's the way that I think. I look at I try to look at all the things that are available to me in the information. Maybe I need some more time. I have to say no at this time. Maybe the deal's not right, whatever, what have you. But it also protects you from extenuating circumstances that may not be foreseeable, right? That's the big key. We don't always foresee. So going back to what Epictetus was saying, when he says, when the standards have been set, the things are tested and weighed, right? That means the life situation is going to be tested. So when you're at work and you're doing business with a client or you're doing business with an employer, a lot of times we need to listen more than we actually speak. The client wants a certain result. He wants a sale of a house, a car, or he wants investors. And this is the criteria. Okay. The more that you have questions in reserve so that you can assist him, help him, serve him, you get paid. But what about if they're asking you things in scope that you don't know about? What if, like, for example, I'm not a marketer, not one shape or form. And if my client comes to ask me, hey, Jason, along with your duties, can you set me up with marketing? This is where I say no. However, I'm saying no because I may have some people in mind that could do that for you. And that's where the power of the network gives me strength. The network that I'm a part of. I know a lot of people in a lot of different professions, from cooks and marketers, mechanics. accountants, doctors, so on and so forth. By me reserving no, which is kind of like can be taboo. When I say no, but I'm going to refer out, you know what? Not only do I not hold a responsibility, but I'm giving you my word. I'm giving you a place to actually say, you know what? There is someone better than me in that field. That is my standard. I work legal. That's what I do. I don't do anything else. I make podcasts for my personal enjoyment, which I'm doing here and sharing with you. But when I look exactly what I do, then that means my standards are not breaking. There is wiggle room, but be very careful on wiggle room. You've got to let things breathe. And sometimes people's emotions, especially in business, are stirred up. If you say no, then that means they're saying it's impossible for me to do business with you. Read the situation. And if you're not equipped to do that very well, what is some tools or references I can refer you to? Um, there is one book, I think by Chris Voss, he said, it's called Never Split the Difference. That was one. The second one is the second book I would say is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Those two books really helped me decide actually what in business do I need to really, how I mingle it, and there are others, there's a lot of others. But if you need something like, hey, I need to learn the behavior of negotiation, or I need the behavior of to be able to, I need to train it. This is not something you can read once. This is something you have to rehearse. So when you rehearse these things, now you can delegate and deliberate what belongs to you and what doesn't. So when it comes to the workplace, there's a lot of feeling implications, or not just implications. Um, what's the word? I'm thinking this word and I'm freezing. But anyhow, it's basically saying, oh, intentions. There's intentions like behind things. Oh, could you do this for me this one time? And you really have to think, you know what? Give me a moment to think about that, or I need a little bit of time. I'm going to pause on that, because then you're thinking about, what's foreseeable. Let me look at this decision, and when you do that in business, it's not saying impossible or never. It just says like, look, I'd like to reach a decision that's going to work for you and for me, if that they need that explanation. But here's the key. When it comes to work and personal relationships, one of the things that we constantly do is we explain before we need to. Sometimes just saying, you know what, no, for right now, I need more time. End it with that, right? It can go either way. It's a teeter-totter, or it could be balanced. And it's like, I want you to have, and when you add sometimes with the results of, I want you to have the best results, but I can't make that decision right now. That's a no. Now, what about yes? Okay. When you're saying yes at work, or whether personally, say like a friend wants to borrow $100 or $200, and they're like, I really need this. But you look at their lifestyle and they're like, dude, they can barely hold $5, let alone me lending out, 100 or $200, right? That's when we have to say to ourselves, okay, can I separate with this without no problem and no emotions, right? That's the key. Your obligations. That's why I said yes is an obligation. It's not a decision. Where the obligation ends, saying, you know what, you'd like to borrow $100 or $200, whatever it is. And, here's where I'm standing. Is it a loan or is it a gift? You could say that to the person. It might throw them off. Oh, yeah, but okay, fine. You agree to pay back when? A month from now. No excuses, right? This is a business. And once you tell your friend or family, like, okay. But then again, the other side, the other avenue you could take is like, all right, here's $100, $200. Expect nothing in return. It's a gift. If they come back, you knew that one time it cost you just one time of your conscious thoughts. It costs you a little bit of time to evaluate that relationship of when it comes to money. If they came back up to you again, it's like, look, I really would love to help you, but here's the thing. Remember the deal that you had. I gave it to you. No worries, but I just can't do it again. That's letting people know that your standard right there is you gave them a little bit of flexibility, but you also gave them a performance. And if they violated or breached that performance in that contract, that verbal contract, you know, then you are the one to be able to say, you know what, I'm at peace with myself, and I'm sorry you're going through whatever the next thing you're going through, but best of luck to you. That can save you a lot of headaches. And I see so many people get frustrated with their friends, their families, or business coworkers, and they're just not giving them the exact reward that they wanted, right? Or they intended. And I think that's something to really think about. So when we create our standards, like the last two paragraphs, the work of the living is to set standards, then not compromise them. What does that mean? Your living standards are, I will tell the truth. As an example, no matter what. Well, I violated that one. I've trampled on that one. But now I realize the cost, even just a little bit of my own word. I need to shore up my word every single time. I may have had a lapse or a breach. It was an unfortunate event. Someone may have feelings about that. But then when you're brushing your teeth, like it says, when you're brushing your teeth or choosing your friends or losing your temper, here's a big one. Losing your temper can cost you a lot more than you can ever realize. Because when you lose your temper, it's like kind of like poison or cancer. It can spread like wildfire. It really can. And when you lose your temper with one person, be sure that that person, if they felt some kind of way, is going to share it with others instead of, you know what, let's keep it between us. When someone loses their temper and someone's on the receiving end, what do we do? How do we control our temper? Like, there's times where I'm really pissed off and I'm like, I'm just going to walk away from you. Straight up, walk away from you. I'm not going to deal with it. And my emotions are not worth me stirring up, right? But then there are times where it's like in a relationship and you're gonna have to deal with the situation. What was the obstacle? What was the problem? Did I listen to everything? Or are they attached to imply and intend a result that I'm gonna agree with? That's one thing that I would say when it comes to standards, like, look, the past is the past, but doesn't mean we can't not reflect on it. It just doesn't mean we need to carry it over. Say like someone did you wrong 2 years ago and you haven't done wrong since, and then they throw it in your face. Well, it's unfortunate you're referring to that, but this isn't that situation. You know, I hope we can reach a decision. If we can't, then there it is. Done story. Don't talk anymore because you know what? I've realized the more that you try to rehash out the past, you never get the present accomplished. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, when we look at standards, just remember that they are something that you've got to practice over and over and over to use right now, good or bad, hard or easy. They've got to be, make sure you know what they are, not just convenient tips like, oh, no, this is my rules, can't do it, but then you break it for somebody else. My number one standard of the day is to protect myself and encourage myself. That is my standard. If I can't get up to encourage me to get up and go walk, do whatever, then who's supposed to be out there to do it for me? Nobody. Nobody is going to help you. Number two, my dedication to my family is most important to me. My kids, you know, I've gone through a lot of therapy, a lot of shadow work. My kids are very important. So gadgets and things and places and trips and all that doesn't matter until the needs of them are cared for. And also caring for my partner, what she's gone through and what she's helped me. And that's what I got to say, I'm eternally grateful for her, because she has seen a great level of, trauma, terror, anger, highs and lows. She's been through it all, and I've got to give her props. So when I say I give her fair share and I give her due, I give her respect. I know what that means. I really know what that means. And we got to train on that. And so the third thing is my community. I don't grow if my community doesn't grow. I got to like sometimes I donate free work, and sometimes I just, you know, do work for a certain discounted fee, but I help to encourage another. So those are some of my standards. I hope that this talk will give you some insight. So no matter what situation you approach today, tomorrow, next week, maybe you're up for a hire for a job or you're in a brand new job and they ask you to do things outside of the scope of what you're hired for. ask yourself and ask them, is this limited? Because once you agree, yes, remember that obligation goes until they see fit or you both see fit to stop, right? So think about that. I'm going to bring some of my friends up on stage and see if anyone wants to talk. So this is the time for Q&A, a part of my talk. So welcome, Sarah and Sim. How you doing? Good to see you, Sim. I haven't seen you in a long time. So a friend from the UK and a friend of mine from Georgia. So how you guys doing this morning? If you guys want to come up, that's great. If you don't, that's also good too. So let me just give you guys a moment to see if you want to come on up. And I've invited them both live on Clubhouse. That's right. I'm recording live. My recordings are reserved the rights to me. Any distribution without my express permission is not allowed and will be, you know, it'll be, let's just say, remedied. All right. Sarah wants to come up. Good morning, Sarah. How you doing? What would you like to add? Let's see. Did I invite you? I think I invited you up. I don't know why it didn't mirror. There we go. User has been already invited to this room. Invite to speak. Oh, I'm trying, but Clubhouse is kind of janky right now, I guess. Let's see. Try one more time. Sarah, why don't you try to go out and then come back in? That might help you because sometimes the app glitches. It won't let me up. Like I said, okay, she went out. Now she went back in. Let me invite you and see if, I'll see if did you get my invite? All right, it's not going to work. Well, yeah, sometimes that happens. No. All right. Anyhow, type in the chat if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share, and I'll read it out to the audience on YouTube. Like I said, on Facebook, as well as on Twitch. I'm going to be producing my Stoic Circus on Mondays for sure. The second day of the week, I have not, it's been hard for me to commit. Let's see if anyone types anything. All right. Well, I guess nothing is going to come through. So let me get to the design. All right. Well, I guess that's the end of our show. So hopefully you've enjoyed the talk. Hopefully it gives you some insight and learn to deliberate and delegate your work or not to take things too personal and just do a better self. That's what I want to encourage. Grow in this week. It's Monday. And for some, it's going into Tuesday. Enjoy yourself. Look at what you have. Do the best of what you can. All right. Well, that's my show on my Stoic Circus. Good to see you all. We hope to catch you all next time. Take care.